Hi everyone, welcome back to CA Foundation Principles and Practice of Accounting discussion. And we were discussing RTP in our last video. So this is the continuation in this series of videos wherein we discuss RTP for November 2020 examination. Yeah. So this is part 4. So in the first three parts we've discussed till question number 8. So today we're going to start with illustration number 9. So question number 9 basically talks about consignment. Yeah, consignment, usually the questions in the examination will be based on preparation of consignment account along with consignees account. At times they prefer not asking consignees account and restricting the question to consignment account all by itself. Depends upon the mark allocation. The kind of great adjustments that can come in consignment is that question can involve commission computation with little more detailed thing, and closing stock computation and commission computation is inevitable, that will always be there in the question. To add on, there can be normal loss, abnormal loss treatment, which will make the problem very interesting. Yeah, and commission can become a little more tricky with little bit of English there, and they can add on something like overriding commission, deliberator commission also to make it more interesting. So that's with respect to consignment. So let's get started. So if you read the last line of the question and basically understand what are they expecting from us from this question. So the last line goes like, you are required to prepare the consignment account and B's account in the books of A. So they're asking consignment account and B's account in the books of A. So when they're asking Mr. B's account, right now we can assume that Mr. B is the consignee and Mr. A is the consigner. Consigner is the principal who sends the goods. Consignee is the person who's schooling the goods. If you know Kannada, like receiving the goods. Person who's receiving it will have two E's next to his name. Transferee, payee, consignee, drawee. Yeah, every other chapter. We discussed this in the previous video when we discussed bills of exchange as well. Yeah, so that's with it. So let's however start reading the question from the beginning. That will give us better understanding. So Mr. A of Assam sent on 18th of February 2020. The moment they use this word sent here, so what does that mean? That basically gives us an idea saying that Mr. A is the consigner. Mr. A is the consigner. So Mr. B would be our consignee. So that's with it. Okay. On 18th of February 2020, how many goods have been sent? 1000 DVD players to B of Bengal costing rupees 100 each. Perfect. So let's get started with this. Now, whenever the goods have been sent on consignment, we are doing accounting from the perspective of Mr. A, and we're preparing consignment account and Mr. B account. Consignment stock, when I send it, the value of my consignment asset will increase. So consignment account should be debited. And the goods that are going out, is not sales, because when the goods are sent on consignment, it is only transfer of possession and not transfer of ownership. I'm sending the goods not to customer, but I'm sending the goods to my consignee, that is my agent. You get that? So the journal entry for goods being sent on consignment is consignment account debit to goods sent on consignment account. I repeat, consignment account debit to goods sent on consignment account. So let's not read the entire question. We've read the first line. We'll write the journal entry for that, meaning post it to the ledger. So come on, let's go to our answer. Yeah. So the journal entry will be to goods sent on consignment account. Yeah. So we're preparing in the books of Mr. A consignment account. As I told you previously, the journal entry is consignment account debit to goods sent on consignment account. Yeah. This is not written to consignee account. Few students assume it's consignment to consignee because consignee has to pay his money. Consignee, we've not sold the goods to consignee. We've just given him the mere possession. So this transaction is happening on what date? It's happening on 18th of February 20. It's important to write the date as well. So let's write the amounts now. How do we determine the amount? They've given 1000 DVDs are sent of rupees 100 each. So 1000 into 100. 1000 DVDs of rupees 100 each. So what is it that I would have to do? I would have to do 1000 into 100. So is equal to 1000 multiplied by 100. That would give me 1 lakh rupees. 1 lakh rupees, because in the debit amount column it should be in rupees, isn't it? So we're done with this first transaction. There is not going to be any further entry to this. If these goods are returned by the consignee, we'll write it on the credit side. The journal entry will be opposite. That is goods sent on consignment account debit to consignment. Or you can write goods sent on consignment return to consignment. Yeah, that's how we write it. If these goods are sold, then I'll write consignee account debit to consignment account, because consignee would have received the money and he would have to pay me. So I'll debit consignee because receivable from consignee. Consignment account credit because the goods are going out. And out of this 1000 DVDs, whatever is sold or returned will be written on the credit. Whatever remains will be my closing stock that will appear at the end. Yeah, that I would have to determine. Obviously, we would have to do working note for the same. Come on, let's go to the question further. Expenses of rupees 1500 are met by consignor. Before I tell you any further about expenses, a little important discussion with respect to expenses. Expenses with regard to consignment can be incurred by consignor or can be incurred by consignee also. Now, what is this expenses? Now, I am Mr. A from Agra. Mr. B is my consignee who is there in Bengal. Agra is in Uttar Pradesh, Bengal is in Kolkata. Yeah, both are in northern part of India. So if I pack my goods and then keep it in Agra and I tell these goods, please go to Mr. B in Bengal, these goods will not move by themselves. What is it that I would have to do? I would have to pack them, I would have to load them, I would have to pay for transportation, and only then those goods will reach Bengal. You get that? So now who will pay all those expenses? I have to pay. Consignor. So consignor will incur expenses for sending the goods from his city to the city of the consignee. Now, the goods have reached the city of the consignee. Once the goods reaches the city of the consignee, it is not like the goods have reached Bengal. So Mr. B will go to the transportation dock or transportation station or that courier place and he'll say the goods, okay, come to my shop. Will the goods go? No. Mr. B has to unload the goods, yeah, and they need to pay the freight if there is any, or maybe some taxes if there are any, and later load them to another truck and then take them to his place and then again unload them and then keep it in the godown. So Mr. B also needs to incur certain expenses. All the expenses, whether incurred by the consignor or incurred by the consignee, should be borne by the consignor. I'll repeat, all the expenses, whether incurred by the consignor or incurred by the consignee, should be borne by the consignor because consignor is the principal. Where does the money profit go? Consignor. So entire money goes to consignor. So consignor should bear the expense. Consignor is the principal. Consignee is mere agent. I will do what you tell, boss. Should I bear your expenses? Definitely no. I will not bear your expenses. I would only do what sales and I would charge commission on sale. So all the expenses, both the expense, whether paid by consignor or consignee, should be borne by whom? Consignor only. If consignee pays the expense, you would have to reimburse it at a later stage. Later, all the expenses incurred by consignor are non-selling expenses, whereas expense incurred by consignee can be categorized as non-selling and selling expense. Now the question is, what do you mean by non-selling expense? What do you mean by selling expense? Any expense incurred till the time the goods will reach consignee's godown is non-selling expense. I repeat, any expenditure incurred till the time goods will reach the godown of the consignee is called as non-selling expense. I'll repeat once again, any expenditure incurred till the time goods reach consignee's godown. So consignor incurs the expense to send it to the consignee's godown. So it's completely non-selling. Consignee will first receive the goods, bring it to the godown. Till the time he brings it to the godown, expense is non-selling. After he brings it to the godown, the customer comes, sees the goods, customer orders for delivery. Now from the godown, when there is transportation expenditure incurred to deliver it to the customer's place, that is selling expense because that expense is incurred to sell it. You get that? So consignor's expense is fully selling, no fully non-selling. Consignee's expense can be selling or non-selling. Now the question is, why did we categorize them as non-selling and selling expense? Because non-selling expenses is to be included in the computation of closing stock value. Now when I find the value of my closing stock, now 1000 DVDs are sent, no, from Mr. A. Now assume that some 100 or 200 DVDs are left as closing stock. When I find the value of that 100 or 200 DVDs which are left as closing stock, I would have to take the value, that is 100 rupees per DVD, plus the expenditure incurred by consignor, plus the expenditure incurred by consignee, what I am going to write on the debit of consignment account. Total of that in proportionate to those units that is left out will become value of my closing stock. In such computation, we will only take into consideration the non-selling expenses incurred. If there are any selling expense incurred, that would not be included in the closing stock. Why? Selling expenses are incurred against the units which are sold. I repeat, selling expenses are incurred against the units which are sold. If they are sold, those units are not there in the closing stock. When those units are not there in the closing stock, how can you include the related expense in the closing stock? Do you get the logic? The answer is, selling expenses are incurred against the units sold. When the units are sold, they are not part of closing stock. When the units are only not there in closing stock, why should I include expense in the closing stock? You get that? So expenditure incurred relating to units which are remaining in the closing stock, relating to that I would have to include the expense. So that's the logic. But very important point is it doesn't matter selling or non-selling. Again, selling expenses should be borne by consignor only. Yeah. See, non-selling expense incurred. Non-selling expense is the expense incurred till the time the goods reach the consignee's godown. If you want, you can take a small screenshot of this because this becomes little interesting and tricky. And I hope you have understood this. Yeah. Okay, let's get going. So now there is some expenditure information given here. What was that? Expenditure was incurred by consignor. Consignor's expense. So what would I write? When I am the consignor, I pay the expense. I pay by cash, and my consignment value will increase. The journal entry for expenditure incurred by consignor is consignment account debit to cash account. Consignment account debit to cash account. If it is paid by check, I might write consignment to bank. Nothing is mentioned. I'll assume it to be paid in cash. To what is this? Consignor's expense. How much is it? 1500 if I'm not wrong. Yes, I'm not wrong. 1500 is the amount. Perfect. Okay, let's continue reading. Now, will this 1500 be included in the computation of closing stock? The answer is yes. Yes. Why? Because this is non-selling expense. Entire expenditure of consignor is always non-selling. Yeah. Okay. B is consigning. Spent rupees 3000 for clearance. Clearance means what? Once the goods reaches the city where Mr. B is located, that is Bengal city, from that place to his godown to clear it is incurred expense of 3000. So this 3000 is what? Non-selling expense. How about the next expense? They've told it has selling expense. Selling expense is 20 per DVD play. Shall we make a note of this? Now, with regard to this, when this expense is incurred, again the consignment stock value is increasing. So again, I would have to debit consignment account. But have I paid it? I, in the sense, consignor. Have I paid this money? I have not paid. Who has paid? Consignee has paid. But I told previously, any expenditure, whether incurred by consignor or incurred by consignee, should be borne by consignor. So it is my expense, but consignee has paid it on my behalf. I would have to reimburse it to him. It is my liability to pay that money to him. Liability should be credited. So to consignee account. To consignee account. Why consignment account debit? Because it increases the value of the consignment stock. So the journal entry is consignment account debit to consignee's account. I'll write here to consignee's account. Yeah. The first part is non-selling expense. The first part is non-selling. That is that clearance expenditure. How much is that? That was 1000 if I'm not wrong. How much was it? Yeah, no, 3000, and then there is 20,200 per player. Okay, 3000. Further, consignee has incurred a little more expenditure. Yeah, I would write that again. I would write Control C, Control V, but in this case, it is selling expenses. They mentioned very clearly in the question selling expense. Now, how much is selling expense? They've told it as 20 rupees per DVD player. Now, 20 rupees per DVD player sent or 20 rupees per DVD player sold? Interesting question. Those of you who told sent, you're wrong. Those of you who told sold, perfect. Why is it on inventory sold? Because when you say selling expense, that is the expense incurred to sell. For each unit you sell, you incur expense, not for each unit you receive. You get that? Okay. So 20 rupees per DVD. Rupees 20 per DVD sold. Yeah. Now, do we know how many DVDs are sold? We don't know. Why? We haven't read the question completely. When we read the remaining part of the question, then we'll understand how many DVDs are sold. Once we understand, I'll multiply it and then write it. So till then, I don't know, you don't know, we don't know. Yeah, let's get going. Now, before I continue reading the question anymore, I need to remember that in the question, they've asked us to prepare consignment account along with consignee's account. Consignee's name is Mr. B. So here I wrote consignee. Okay, fine. I'll replace this with B. It is B's account actually. Okay. Can I remove the word consignee? I hope you guys will understand it is consignee's expenditure only. Mr. B is who? Consignee. If the name was not given, then I would have written consignee, but now I'll write Mr. B only. Yeah, Mr. B's account. Now when I debit Mr. B's account in consignment account, I would have to prepare consignment account, and in consignment account I would have to credit Mr. B. See, consignment account debit to Mr. B. In Mr. B I should write by consignment. So let me do that. I'll write by consignment. Mr. B's account, I'll write by. Why is it on the credit? Because I owe money. I owe money. I would have to pay him. Consignment account. Yeah. Should I write selling expense? I think we've written there. I hope you'll understand that. Okay. 3,000 non-selling expense. Yeah. That doesn't end there. I would have to write for non-selling expense also. But I don't know what it is. I don't know how much is that, isn't it? Yeah. I don't know how much exactly is that selling expense. Once I identify the amount here, then I'll post it to the credit in consignee's account also. Yeah, come on, let's continue the question now. B sold on 15th of March 2020 600 DVD players at rupees 160 per DVD player. B has sold. Now they've given date. Now we'll write date. Now whenever there is sales, I would usually be creating sales account and debiting cash account. I'll write cash to sales. In this case, I cannot write it as sales because it is like I have not sold it, but the consignment stock has been sold by my consignee. So my consignment stock, when I sent it, I debited consignment. Now when the consignment stock is being sold, consignment account would reduce. So consignment is reducing. Consignment account should be credited. Consignment account should be credited. If I am receiving the cash, I would have done cash to consignment. But who is selling the goods? My consignee. Who would have received the money? My consignee, because he is my agent. If I can sell the goods myself and then receive the cash, why would I appoint an agent? Just because I can't reach out to every customer and then do it, I have appointed the agent. So my agent would sell it on my behalf and he would collect the money on my behalf. So consignee has collected money, but whose money is it? My money. So consignee has collected my money. I would have to collect it from consignee. So is my asset now. Asset is increasing. So I would write consignee account debit to consignment. I repeat, whenever the goods are sold on consignment, the journal entry will be consignee account debit to consignment account. In this case, the name of the consignee is Mr. B. So journal entry will be Mr. B account debit to consignment account. Yeah, you get that? 15th of March. Come on, let's go here. 15th of March. I'll write here 15th of March 20. Journal entry that I told is consignee account debit to consignment account. So here I would write by B. Shall I write B's account? So this with regard to sales. Am I right? How much is the sales that he made? He sold 600 DVDs at rupees 160 each. So I'll write here 600 DVDs at rupees 160 each. Now when you sell 600 DVDs at rupees 160 each, am I right? 600 at 160. So what would be the amount? The amount would be 600 is equal to 600. Okay, fine. I'll write it above. Is equal to 600 multiplied by 160. Am I right? That comes to 96,000 rupees. Yes? Okay. Now, the statement doesn't end there. It says, and again on 20th of May, 300 DVD players at rupees 170 each. Okay, I'll copy this entire thing what I've just written. Control C. Yeah, and paste it here. And once I paste it here, I'll just change it. 20th of May. When is this transaction happening? 20th of May 20. Am I right? 20th of May 20. 300 DVDs at rupees 170. This time how many DVDs are sold? 300. But what rate? 170 each. 300 at 170, isn't it? 300 at 170. Now here I would have to change this. It will become 300 DVDs at rupees 170 each. That comes to how much? 51,000. Yeah. So now we can arrive at one conclusion. What is that conclusion? Yeah, 9 sales is 900 DVDs. 900 DVDs has been sold. What is the amount? amount is 96,000 plus 51,000. How much is 96 plus 51? 147. Am I right? 96 plus, that becomes 1,47,000. 1,47,000. That is the value of sales. You guys get that? So basically 900 DVDs is been sold for rupees 1,47,000. Sales is 900 DVDs and 1,47,000 DVDs were sent, out of which 100 have been sold. If there is no normal loss or abnormal loss, entire 100 DVDs will be my closing stock. Further, before I continue reading the question anymore, remember there are two things that I should do. Number one, here in consignment account I have written by B. So in B's account I would have to write 2 consignment. I'll write that. Okay, fine. Let me write it. 15th of March. 15th of March 20. I would have to write 2 consignment. Because so much money is receivable from him. So that's my asset. You get that? How much? 96,000. 96,000. Further, similar transaction is there. One more. 51,000 ke liye. I'll write that also. 51,000. Am I right? 96 and 51. Okay. This is on what date? 20th of May 20. Yeah, concentrate. 96 and 51. So 96 and 51 here created, here debited. Here there I wrote by B, here I wrote 2 consignment. So first part done. Second part. When we wrote about the selling expenses, I had written 20 rupees per DVD sold. How many DVDs sold? For 900 DVDs. Why? 900 DVDs are sold. How did I arrive at it? 600 were sold on 15th March. 300 were sold on 20th of May. So the information will not be given at all at one place. It will be given in bits and pieces. You would have to connect them. Simple. Now what will I do? 900 DVDs are sold into 20 rupees per DVD. Sir, can I do 20 into 900? Perfect. Sir, will I get different answer? Actually not. Okay. 18,000 is the amount. So I would write that 18,000 here. This is for that only, no? We had left that place. You guys remember? 18,000. Yeah. So selling expense, not selling expense. So this is what? Non-selling expense. How about this? Selling expense. Perfect, guys. I hope you understood till here. Let us now go further. I think technically looking at the question, only thing that should be left is something regarding commission and closing stock. Once we do that, it should be done. If there is no normal abnormal loss in the question. Let's see. B is entitled to commission. So why did B do all this? Why did B incur expense on behalf of A? Why did B sell the goods on behalf of A? Not for profit. He sold it for the sake of commission. How much is B's commission? B is entitled to commission of 25 per DVD. And the question doesn't end there. Sold 25 per DVD sold, not on cent. Commission will never be given for units sent. Commission will always be given for units sold. Yeah, 25 per DVD sold plus 1/4 of the amount by which gross sale proceeds less total commission thereon exceeded a sum calculated at 125 per DVD sold. Oh God, does this look very tricky? It sounds very tricky, but trust me, it's sheer English. You just need to take this English statement, convert it to maths equation, then you'll get answer, and consignment will be done. I repeat, this is a very Englishy statement. You need to break it into parts, read word after word, convert this English statement to mathematical equation, and then what you have is commission with ease. I'll show it to you. Don't really worry. We have to do working note on this. I'll do it. Yeah, we just have to chill, sit back, and then try and understand. Working note number 1 is commission competition. Yeah. Come on, let's compute commission. So commission is what? Firstly, they've told commission is total commission. Okay, fine. TOTAL, total commission be X. So can I call total commission as X? Okay, let total commission be X. Because they've referred to the word commission more than once. So I'm telling let total commission be X. So I'm naming the total commission as X. So how do we find it now? That X is equal to. So there is a formula for this X. So what is the formula for this X? They've told this X is equal to 25 per DVD. Am I right? 25 per DVD sold. How many DVDs are sold? 900. So I will open one bracket. I'll write 25 multiplied by how many DVDs are sold? 900. 25 per DVD sold. That doesn't end there. They've told plus. Okay. Plus what? Plus 1 by 4th of, again they've told some other thing. Yeah, what have they told? Let us see. Concentrate. 1/4 of the amount by which gross sales. Less exceeds, we'll see later. First now what is it? Gross sales proceeds. So what do you mean by gross sales proceeds? How much is the money that you receive? 1,47,000. So I will write here 1,47,000. That is our gross sales proceeds. Yeah, continue reading. Gross sale proceeds less. Less means minus. So I will write minus total commission. What is total commission? I told, isn't it? Let total commission be X. Again minus, they've told less total commission thereon exceeded. So minus again. It exceeds, now 2 exceeds half by 1.5, or I would say 4 exceeds 1 by 3. So 4 exceeds 1 by 3 means 4 is 3 numbers more than 1. So 4 minus 1 is 3. So exceeded again means minus. So I have to again tap minus. Minus what? Sum calculated at 125 per DVD sold. So sum calculated at 125 per DVD sold. 125 per DVD sold. So how many DVDs are sold? 900 into 900. Sorry, that's how we find it. Yeah, looks very tricky, but it's completely English. Try and understand. I've told commission has to be computed by working note. Let total commission be X. Perfect. X is what we should compute. It is what? 25 rupees per DVD player sold. So I wrote 25 multiplied by 900 because 900 DVDs are sold. They've told plus 1 by 4. Plus 1 by 4. Of means multiplied by. Bracket. The amount by which gross sale proceeds. Gross sale proceeds is 1,47,000. That is 600 DVDs at once. 600 DVDs is 160 and 300 DVDs at 170. Together 96 plus 51,000 added 1,47,000. We computed it previously. So 1,47,000. They've told less total commission. So write minus X. X is total commission. They've told exceeds. Exceeds again I told no. 4 exceeds 1 by 3. Meaning 4 minus 1 is 3. So exceeded again means less. So again I wrote minus after X. They've told 125 per DVD sold. 125 multiplied by how many DVDs are sold? 900. Done guys. It's as simple as that. Come on, let's solve this equation further. X is equal to. Now tell me how much is 25 multiplied by 900. So I'll do it in the calculator. 25 multiplied by 900 is 22,500. So I'll write 22,500. I'll write plus again. 1 by 4 I'll retain like that only. And then I'll open the bracket. Now 1,47,000 I'll write it as 1,47,000 minus X. I'll write it as minus X. I'll write minus. Now let me open that last bracket. 125 multiplied by 900. I'm not your maths teacher, but I hope you know it. First we need to open the brackets, board maths, brackets of division, multiplication, addition, subtraction. I hope you guys know it. So it comes to 1,12,500. 1,12,500. What is 1,12,500? 1,12,500 is 125 multiplied by 900. Okay, let's simplify this equation further. Okay, now I'll write again 22,500. Okay, plus 1 by 4. 1 divided by 4. I'll open the bracket. Now 1,47,000 minus 1,12,500. I can solve this. 1,47,000 minus 1,12,500. That gives me 34,500 positive. So I'll write 34,500 minus X. Minus X remains. Perfect. So this time we'll open that bracket. X is equal to 22,500. Okay. Plus now 34,000 divided by 4. 34,500 divided by 4. That gives me 8,625. So I'll write 8,625. Okay. Minus sign will prevail. 1 divided by 4 is 0.25. So it will be 0.25x. That's it. I've opened all the brackets now. Now let me add 22,500 plus 8,625. So 22,500 plus 8,625 comes to 31,125. 31,125. Just check once. 22,500 plus 8625. 31,125 minus 0.25x. Okay. Now I'll send this 0.25x on the other side. It will become x plus 0.25x. I don't want to stretch it further, so I'll write 1.25x is equal to 31,125. Can I write it this way? 0.25 will go to the other side. There is already x. X plus 0.25x becomes 1.25x is equal to 31,125. So x will be equal to 31,125 divided by 1.25. Yeah. So let me do that. 31,125 divided by 1.25, that gives me 24,900. So x is equal to 24,900. So that, my friends, is commission. So how much is commission? 24,900 rupees. So how much is the commission? 24,500. So this is the computation of commission. If you guys want it, you can take a quick screenshot or copy it if you want to. Yeah, I hope you're done. So commission is an expense to the consignor. It is income to consignee. It is to be paid by the consignor to the consignee. It is to be paid by the consignor to the consignee. So what I would do is, consignment may expense will be debited and consignment account debit. Further, what will be the credit? The credit has to be given to consignee's account because you would have to pay this to consignee. So I'll write here to consignee. Oh, that I would have to write B's account only straight. Okay, B's account. What is this? Commission. Yeah, you would have to write here working note 1. Yeah, sir, is it mandatory to do this working note in the examination? 100% yes. Sir, can I skip it? No. If you skip it, the evaluator will skip giving marks to you. If that is okay, this should be 24,900. Okay, fine. Let me type 24,900 here. 24,900. Perfect. I will insert a line here. Running short of space. Yeah. Okay. Now going further. Okay, this would go a little up. Perfect. Now, in consignment account, I have written 2B. In B's account, I would have to write by consignment. See, 100% of the times in the consignment chapter, 2 working notes would definitely be there. One is commission computation, second one is closing stock computation. You have to do that, you can't skip it. Marks will be allotted for that. Yeah, commission. So selling expense, non-selling expense and commission needs to be paid to the consignee. I have written it here. Money receivable from the consignee is the sales that he has made. So I have written it here. Okay, come on. So we're done with consignment commission computation. And that's it. B send the amount due to A on 30th of June. That's it. We should identify how much is the money that is supposed to be sent. So that we'll find it here. Yeah, B, whatever the money that he has to send, he sent it here. So that comes here. How do we find? Balance in figure. Now what is it that I would do? I would do here is equal to sum. I would total it. That comes to 45,900. The short balance is here. So I would have to find the balancing figure. How much is it? This is equal to this total minus this total. So 1,01,100. So here this should change, isn't it? Or it is change. Okay. 221 tak hai. We'll go to 225. Okay, boss. Yeah, 1,47,000. So that's it. So how much is the money payable by consignee to consignor? 1,01,100. 96 plus 51 is the money that he should pay. He can deduct 3,000, 18,000 and 24,900 towards his commission and expense. This money has to be paid by consignee to consignor. So what is it? This much money will be received by consignor. Consignor receives it, cash account debit. Who's paying it? Consignee. So journal entry will be cash account debit to Mr. B or cash account debit to consignee. So this is by cash account. So what date is this transaction happening? They've told it is 30th of June. So I'll write here 30th June 20. Guys, this is balancing figure. Okay, don't forget. Don't say, sir, where did you get this amount from? This is balancing figure. I would type it here. Balancing figure. This is balancing figure. Okay, perfect. Let us go further. Now we would have to close this. There are two items that is missing in our consignment account. The money sent will not come here. There are two items missing. Missing item number one is by balance carried down. By balance carried down, that is the closing stock. Closing stock. How many 1000 DVDs are there? 600 and 300 are sold. Closing stock, that is 100 DVDs. Closing stock of 100 DVDs. We would have to compute the value for that and then write it here. The next thing that's missing is after we do all this, we would have profit. If it is profit, it will come on the debit. If we have loss, it will come on credit. So I'm very optimistic. I'll write here to P&L account. We'll see if it is loss. If it is loss, I'll post it to the other side. Right now I'll write it here. So we'll find the balancing figure, sorry, balance carried on first and then find the profit as balancing figure. Yeah, come on, let's identify our closing stock. So in order to identify closing stock, see 1000 DVDs ke liye, how much? 100 rupees each. So for 100 DVDs, I would have to do 100 into 100. Next one, consignor's expense 1500 is incurred for how many DVDs? 1000 DVDs. How much for 100? Proportionate I would have to find. Next, with respect to B's expense, 3000 is non-selling expense, only that will be considered. 18,000 will not be considered because 18,000 is selling expense. So 3000 is incurred for 1000 DVDs. How much is it for 100? Once I do that, I'll be done. I will not be writing it here straight away. I will do working note number 2. Yeah, okay, come on. Let us do working note number 2, closing stock. Closing stock computation. Yeah, come on, let's compute our closing stock now. So in the closing stock computation, how many sent? Sent is how many? 1000 DVDs. Yeah, sold. Sold is how many? 900 DVDs. Yeah, remaining. Closing stock. Closing stock is how much then? 100 DVDs. Now, how much is the expense for each of the DVDs is what we should find. Now, firstly, cost. Yeah, cost. You need to remember, cost is 100 rupees per DVD. So, I will write 100 DVDs at 100 rupees each. Yeah, how do you know 100 rupees each? They have given, no, each DVD costs 100 rupees. So, what is it that I would have to do here? I would have to do 100 multiplied by 100. That comes to 10,000. 10,000 is the cost. Now, consignor's expenditure. Consignor's expenditure. Now, how much is consignor's expenditure? Yeah, consignor's expenditure, very important point. How much did he incur? He incurred 3,000 rupees. 3,000 rupees. Am I right? See here, he incurred how much? Consignor 1,500 rupees. Okay, 1,500 for how many DVDs? 1,000 DVDs. DVDs. For 100 DVDs, how much will it be? For 100 DVDs, how do we compute? We basically do 1,500 multiplied by, what to say, 1,500 multiplied by 1,000, it's no 100 divided by 1,000. That's how we do. Yeah, yeah, come on, let me put that here. Is equal to 1,500 multiplied by 100 divided by 1000. That would be 150 rupees. Yeah, come on. Next, we would have to do consignee's expenditure. Yeah, come on. Let's do consignee's only non-selling expense. Selling expense will not be considered. Am I right? How much is non-selling expense? He incurred 3000 for 1000 DVDs. Correct, isn't it? How many DVDs are left? 100 DVDs. For 100 DVDs, we need to find. How do we find it? We do 3000 multiplied by 100 divided by 1000. Am I right? Isn't that what the amount? Isn't that the amount? We incurred 600. No, no. 3000 for clearance. Okay, guys, perfect. Now we'll copy the same formula, paste it here. I would change 1500 to how much is the expenditure incurred? 3000. It would become double, guys, basically. There it is 150, here it will be 300. Perfect. Now we have the entire expenditure. Am I right? Closing stock computation, we're almost done. Come on, let's try right here. Yeah, value of closing stock. Value of closing stock. How much is the value of closing stock? It's simple. Is equal to sum. Sum, no, of all these things. How much do we get? 10,450. 10,450. That's it. We have it all. You guys can copy this. Yeah. Closing stock computation table can be copied if you intend to. I'll post this amount and we're done. 10,450. I'll post it. Okay, where do I write it? Consignment account to the credit. I'll write here working note number 2. How much is it? 10,450. Once I post that, just that I would have to take totals now. I found the total. It's 1,57,450 on the credit. I'll copy the same and paste it here. 1,47,400 here. So the difference here is basically our profit. What do you find? Sum this side total minus sum on the debit side. There comes my balancing figure. How much is it? 10,050. So this is balancing figure. I would type it here so that you will understand. That's it, guys. We are done with the question on consignment. So this is our consignment account. If you want to take a small note or small picture, so this is my consignment account. I hope that's done. This is my consignee account. Next up, if you want to take a picture or snap. Okay. Next, I would show you my working notes. So these two are my working notes. Working note number 1 and working note number 2. Working note number 1 is on commission computation. Working note number 2 is on closing stock computation. Yes, I hope you're done. That's it. By this, we're done with illustration number 9. Let us now go to illustration number 10. So illustration number 10. Illustration number 10 is from special transactions again. Sale of goods on return or approval basis. So whenever I'm selling goods and if I'm very new to the market or if I want to approach wider markets and I don't have enough recognition, what I might do is I might approach few people and then tell them, I'll give you my goods, keep it in your place and then sell them. If you sell it, you give me the money. If you don't sell it within certain period of days, you can return it to me. You get that? So I'll give him like 15 days, 30 days or 1 month, 1.5 month time. So if I give like 30 days time, within 30 days, if you sell the goods, you pay me the money. If you can't sell it within 30 days, you return the goods to me. If you don't return it after 30 days, I'll assume that it is sold and then you would have to pay. So that's how the deal is. So this is the kind of transaction which is called a sale of goods on return or approval basis. So there's a question on that. Come on, let's do that. So let's read the last line. So that will help us understand what exactly are they expecting from us. Prepare the following account in the books of X. So what is it that they want us to prepare? Number one, goods on sale or return accounts. Okay, they want us to prepare a day book. This is like a subsidiary book which will have date, particulars, the date of return or the date of sale, and then I'll rate how much is the goods that is returned, how much is the goods that is sold, how much is the goods that is balance. Balance is the difference thing. Yeah, and they want us to prepare goods or goods on sale or return account. So once you prepare this goods or return sold or return day book, from that day book we can prepare the account. It is simple. I'll write the entire goods returned on the credit, goods returned I'll not on the debit, and then goods balancing carried on will be basically found. It's not very difficult. Okay, let me show it to you. Okay, guys. So let's read the question from the beginning now. X supplied goods on sale or return basis to customers, the particulars of which are as follows. Okay, the date of dispatch, meaning the date on which I'm sending, is 10th of December 2019. Oh, fine. Let's start solving this simultaneously. Chuma, let's not waste time reading the question. It is pretty important, guys, that we won't waste the time Chuma reading the question twice and all in the exam, because there was an attempt of CA final where the question paper was only 30 pages. So when the question paper is 30 pages, it's not every time, but one of the attempt it happened. So just imagine if you take 1 minute to read one page, you take 30 minutes. So half an hour in 3 hours examination is gone. And if you by mistake read the question 1.5 times, or if you read the question 2 times, 1 hour in the exam is gone. That's in CA final, however. But still, even at CA foundation level, you should not be spending the time by reading the question 2 times, 3 times. You would have to read the question once and you should be able to judge the answer. So how do you do it? There's a technique of reading it. First, you need to read the last line so that you'll understand what are they expecting. Then read the line. When you read it, whatever you read, to that extent you should solve, and then read, then solve, then read, then solve. So if you just read it like newspaper, again when you start solving, again you might read the question. So you should minimize the amount of time, yeah, to the best extent possible. Come on, let us go ahead with this. And in fact, I've done a detailed video on how to read the question paper and how to solve it in the examination, proper writing way. So link to which I'll drop it in the description so you can watch that. So that is with respect to November 2019 exam paper. I've solved it all and all with explanation. I didn't just tell why is it the answer. I explained the concept and the chapter also little when I did that. And still, I could finish the entire discussion of the question paper with answer to every question within 3 hours. So that is kind of a confidence booster that will make you understand that yes, the examination is possible and you can definitely solve the entire paper in 3 hours. Yeah. And even in this RTP discussion also, I'm not just see, I can just another open the solutions given by IC and then discuss that and then tell this goes here, this goes here. But I'm not doing that because I want you to explain, I want you to understand the concept also along with the question. This is not mere discussion of RTP, but this is also the concept class. The way you understand it in your ordinary class, you will revise the concepts also, what is related to the topic. Yeah. So let's go get going here. So we're doing it in the books of X. So I'll write in the books of X. Yeah, we're doing it for Mr. X. Okay, so what are we preparing? We're preparing goods on sale or return sold, or goods or sale or return sold or return debit. Okay, goods sent on return or approval day book. So that's the name. We'd have to prepare ledger also. We'll do it when after we finish this. Sir, why not now? We can't simultaneously do two things, isn't it? One at a time. So my first column will be date column. Then I'll write particulars or name of the party. Yeah, I'll write name of the party with whom we're basically dealing this, and then I'll write amount column. Yeah, or this is basically goods sent, guys. Yeah, goods sent. If you need to understand, then I'll write one more date column. So this is with regard to whatever the further things that's happening there. Where are they approving it or they returning it types? Okay. Then I'll have returns column. Then I'll have approval. Approval means sales. or acceptance also. Yeah, either ways. Okay guys, fine. This is the table with which we'll be starting. Let me make it little beautiful. Okay, I hope this is nice enough. Hmm? Okay guys, come on, let's get started now. Let's read the first transaction and the date as well as the person. So 10th of December, 10th of December 2019. Let us see what's happening. What is the name of the party? 10th of December. It is not Mrs., it is Messrs. That's how you name an entity. If it is person, you call him. If it is a man, you call him Mr. If it is a female, you call her Miss, Mistress, or Mrs. or whatever. If it is an entity, that is what is a sole proprietor or a partnership firm, you call it Messrs. M/S is Messrs. Okay, Messrs ABC. ABC and company. Okay. What is the value of the goods sent? Goods sent is 10,000. Which I forgot one more zero. Yeah. So what is the time period for which there it's been sent? That's given at the end of the table. Just read that end of the table information. Goods are to be returned here. Goods are to be returned within 15 days from the dispatch. So when you send the goods within 15 days, they would have to return it. If they don't return it within 15 days, 16th day will assume it to be sold. Okay. Failing which it will be treated as sales. The books are closed on 31st of December 2019. So we're doing it for the month of December. Okay. So 10,000 rupees were sent on 10th of 10,000 rupees worth goods are sent on 10th of December. 15 days time is there. So time is still what date? 10 plus 15, 25th. The time is still Christmas. So before Christmas, they can return the goods. 25th, if they don't return, 26th, they'll assume it to be sold. Can they say that they want the goods on 11th only? They can tell. So let us see. What have they given? No information till 31st. So, which date did we send the goods? 10th of December. What is the date till which they can return the goods? 25th. Did they inform anything? No. What date are gone? 31st. So, what do you assume? Sold. What do you assume? Sold. So, I'll write here 31st. They didn't tell anything on 31st of December 19. Or I can write actually 26th. I can assume it to be returned. Approved. It is assumed to be approved. How much? 10,000. Entire 10,000 is assumed to be approved. Why? They didn't return it. They didn't return it. If they don't return, it is approved. Okay. Oh, sir, this is easy. Yeah, it is. Come on, let's go to the next one. 12th. Now I'll write 12th of December 19. What is the name of the company? DEF. DEF1 company. What is the value of the goods? 15,000. So I'll write 15,000. Okay. Now when it is sent on 12th, they have 15 days time to return. 15 days ends on 27. Sir, how did you arrive at 27? 15 plus 12. 1 plus 1, 2. 5 plus 2, 7. So they have time till 27. What's happening? Let's see. Returned on 16th. Returned on 16th. On 16th they return. That is within 14 days. So can they return? Yeah. They have time till 27th. They returned on 16th only. We don't want your goods. You take it, you keep it. We'll say, okay. So what date will I write? I'll write 16th. I'll not write 27th. Yeah. Now come on. 16th of 12/19. Return. So how much? Entire 15,000 is returned. Perfect. No problem. No harsh feelings. I'll send it to someone else. Okay. Next, we have Messrs. DF over GHI, I guess. Let us see. GHI. Yeah, 15th of December. Now when 15th of December you're sending the goods, they have 15 days time. So till what date do they have time? They have time till 30th of December to return. Let us see what is the value. The value is 16,000. 16,000. Okay. They have time till 30th. Let's see what they did. They did no 12,000. Oh. I skipped the line. 10, 15, 12. Okay, 12. Goods worth 2,000 returned on 20th of December. So worth 2,000 is returned on 20th. Remaining there is no information. So remaining money assumed to be approved. What date will I write? 20th. So I'll write here 20th of 12/19. How much is returned? 2000. So I'll write here 2000. If you want, I can write one more date here, 31st, and then write approval 10,000. Instead, I'll write here only. If you want, you can write one more date here as 31st or 30th, and then you can write 10,000. So that's not the objective. So you return 2,000, balance is accepted. Now you might ask me, sir, they have not mentioned in the question that 10,000 worth goods have been approved or sold. How did you assume? See, 15th I sent the goods. I have given him 15 days time to return. He returned 2,000 worth goods. He has 10,000 worth goods. So that balance 10,000 he should return it before 30th. So how did you arrive at 30th? 15th plus 15 days. Did he return it before 30th? No. So it is assumed to be sold or accepted. Do you guys get that? Okay. Let's get going. So 15th of December transaction is over. Next we have 20th of December. 20th of December 19. So this is Messrs. Again DEF. Okay, Mrs. DEF and Company. What's happening with Mrs. DEF and Company? 16,000 is the value of the goods. Okay, it's on 20th. So how many days do we have? We have time till 35th. There's no concept of 35th, guys. There's no concept of 35th. You guys need to understand 15 days when you count from 20th, it becomes till 31st. Till 31st, 11 days are over. So you have 4 days time in next month. January में 4 days. So January 4th is the date, last date for them to return. Let's see what's happening. Goods have been retained. 24th of December only they told, boss, I love the goods, I want the goods. So what is it? Yeah, 24th retained. 24th of 12/19. So it is what? It is not returned. They don't have an option to return it. Why? They've told, yes, I like it, I'll keep those goods. Don't think. Don't. Do they have to promise that on 24th only? No, they had time till 4th of January to return or accept. But they did it in early. No problem. Good people. DEF. Next, I'll go to ABC again, 25th of December. 25th of December 19. And copy this. Yeah, ABC and Company. You know what's happening? 11,000 is the value of goods. I'll write 11,000. Okay, perfect. Now listen. Goods are retained on 28th. See, 25th when you sell, they have 15 days time. 5 days, 6 days in this year, 9 days in next year. Till 9th of January, they have time to return it. But on 28th always, they're saying, boss, I love the goods and keep it. So what will I write? 28th, I'll write as so 28th of 12/19, 0. Entire thing is retained 11,000. Insert one more line. We need it for total, isn't it? Okay, now I'll go to the next transaction, that is 30th. So when I sent it on 30th, only 1 day is over. They have time till what date? They have time till next month 14th of January, usually the Makar Sankranti date. Messrs GHI. Okay, what is the value? 13,000. Yeah, so 13,000. So they have time till next month 14. So when I have time till next month 14, so what is it that we'll do? Let's see. No information till 31st of December. So there is no information given. So I'll write 31st of December 19. Is it retained? No. Is it returned? No. They still have time. They still have time. That balance would be still there. You get that? Okay. So that's it. Now let us find the totals. So that would be balance carried down, guys. When I prepare goods sent on return or approval basis account, no, that will be the balance carried down is equal to sum. Yeah, 47,000. Now, if you can observe, this total will be 13,000 more than that one. Yeah, 77,000. See, if you can observe, 77,000 is a good sent, out of which 17,000 is returned, 47,000 is approved. You get that? So there is balance here. 13,000 is balance. Right. Yeah, now if you can check, no, 13 plus 47 plus 17 will be equal to 77. 13 plus 47 plus 17 is equal to 77. 77,000 worth goods you sent. Out of that 17,000 they have returned. 47,000 it is approved. 13,000 is balance. So what is it? Now you'd have to prepare one Kutty ledger code. Yeah, that's what they've asked in the question. Sale or return total account. So I'll write here the ledger as sale or return total account. Sale or return total account. This will be the debit side. This will be the credit side. Now, what is the value? When the goods are sent on return or approval, I'll credit it. I'll credit how much? How much is sent? 77,000. You get that? And how much is returned? I'll write here returns. Okay, fine. If you wanted to write it in detail, yeah, returns. How much is returns? 17,000 is returned. And then how much is sold? Sales. How much is sales? 47,000. And you would have balance carried on. 2. How much is balance carried on? 13,000. Yes, guys, this is how it would look. I have not written it completely, just saving a little time. Yeah, and I hope you understand. So this is how the ledger will look. You get that 77,000 is goods sent on return or approval, 17,000 is returned, 47,000 is sold, balance is 13,000. So this is my day book. You guys can take a quick snap if you want to. Yeah, and this is the ledger. I'll show it to you in the answer sheet as well. How will it look? So this is how ICA gives. This is the consignment account one. You've done this. Yeah, have a look. Sold return. This is the day book, and this is our what do you say? The goods sent on return or total account. Goods sent on sale or return 77,000. Return 77. Sales 47,000. Balance carried out 13,000. So date 31st December 30. You can write that in fact. Yeah. So that's it, guys. So we're basically done with which part now? Goods sent on return or approval basis topic. That is our illustration number 10. Yeah. Come on. Let us now go to illustration number 11. So illustration number 11 is actually based on account current. So let's do this account current question. So let's see which method have they asked. Have they mentioned any method? Drop account current up to 31st of March to be rendered by G2H. They have not told the methods. If you guys can recall your account current concept, there are basically ways of preparing account current. You can prepare it basically under interest table method, or you can prepare it on product method, or you can prepare it on balance of products method, the product of balance method. So there are basically 3 methods: interest table method, product method, balance of product method. If they don't mention, we can either go with interest method or product method. What saves time is product method, so we'll basically do product method. If you guys want me, I can basically do interest table method also. Examination may, they don't mention anything, always do it under product method because product method saves time. I'll repeat, examination always do product method if they don't mention, because it saves time. So account current is an account prepared by one person and then given to the other. Now, what name to start with account current is actually a headache. So that is something that we should start with. The name itself is a headache in this one. So whenever you write a letter, what do you write? You write your friend's name first, to my dear friend, and then write the entire subject, write your name at the end, sign it at the end. You get that? So first you need to write the receiver's name, then you need to write the sender's name. I repeat, first you need to write the receiver's name, then you need to write the sender's name. And this is not a ledger account. Looks like a ledger, but not a ledger. Why? Because the amount in this particular ledger can be negative. Can be negative. See, when red ink interest comes into picture, I'll explain it to you when it comes. But if you guys already know this part, when red ink interest comes into picture, the amount column we write negative thing. Have you ever seen negative amount in a ledger before? The answer is no. So because you haven't seen it, This is an exception. Can I call this ledger? This is actually not ledger. This is a statement. Account current is a statement prepared by one party, sent to the other party, which comprises of all the transactions that's transacted between them and the interest relating to it. Yeah, why to prepare account current and everything, that's a little detailed discussion. I will do one such video a little later. Yeah, and you guys can watch it at that point of time. So let's get started. So what have they told us? They've told that draw up an account current up to 31st of March 2020 to be rendered by G to H. Now tell me, who's the sender? G. Who's the receiver here? H. So I'll write that sender is G. Yeah, who's the sender? G. Receiver is H. Yeah, so now when we do, we're doing in the books of G, we're doing in the books of G H account. Yeah, what is it? It is like in the books of G, in the books of G H account. Yeah, it's like in the books of the H account, but that's not the name that you will write. So what you need to write as a name for account current is account current. Okay, H in account current with G. So this is the name that you will write. You will not write account current account. Account current is not an account. Account current is not an account. It's a statement. So what is the heading? The heading should be H in account current with G. Yeah, H in account current with G. So H is the receiver, G is the sender. So basically it is in the books of G, H account. In the books of G, H account. This is like H account. You get this? Okay. Now what have they told further? Okay, up to 31st of March. Okay, fine. We are doing it up to 31st of March. Okay, shall I write it here? Thirty-first of March. Have they told the year? 2020. 2020. We're doing it till 31st of March 2020. So what will be the columns? We'll have date column and we'll also have due date column. Yeah, certain transactions might not be due on the day the transaction is executed. It will become due on the later date. So I have to write date column as well as our due date column. Yeah, after date and due date, I would have particulars. Yeah, and after particulars, we'll have amount. And this is our usual ledger format, but it doesn't end there. We would have to compute days. Yeah, and we would have to find product. This is debit side. What I wrote till now is debit side. DUCT product. So this is our debit. We'd have to repeat it to the credit now. So when I repeat it to the credit, what will happen? I'll copy the same thing. Yeah, our days column would have to be very small. Yeah, product column on this column, decent big. Okay, this date is again small. Due date is also small. Yeah, particulars little big. Amount days product. Perfect. Perfect. Yeah, I'm doing it in such a way that you can basically see the entire column. So let's see. Hmm. I hope it's making sense now. Let us put, so to say, box to this one. Yeah, perfect. We have it all. So I'll write debit, credit. If you want to, you can write it I prefer skipping. You can write it if you actually prefer writing. Yeah, guys, come on, let's get started. See individual transactions. See individual transactions. Post them like ledger. Yeah, let's start. First one, October 1st. Balance. They might play with direct indirect speech. Don't get confused at all. They might play with. I repeat. They might play with direct indirect speech. Don't get confused at all. See it as we're doing entries in the books of whom? G. So which account are we preparing? H. So who am I? Who am I? I'm accountant of G. So I'm in fact I am G myself. I am G myself. Okay, I am G. Think that balance due to G. So due to G means I am supposed to receive it from H. What is it to me? Asset. So I will write here 1st of October. 1st of October 19. It is what? It is to balance brought down. Okay, how much is the amount? The amount is 3000. Sir, computation days and that and all will do later. Just go on posting the ledger account first. Okay, rest of it we'll see later. So 3000 done. Next transaction is on October 18th. Goods sold by G to H. So don't go with the word sales here. See who's selling to whom. G is selling to H. Who am I? G. So to G it is sales. Then you conclude it to be sales. Because they sell goods sold by H to G also they might play. Certain transactions they'll give from G's perspective, certain transactions from H perspective. So you always get the perspective first and then see the transaction. From whose perspective should we see? G. You told goods sold by G. Okay, I am G, to me it's sales. So when I sell goods to H, what is the journal entry? H account debit to sales account. H account debit to sales account. So this is like H account. I told you, isn't it? So this is, what is this? I told you, this is in the books of G, H account. It's in the books of G, H account. So what will I write? H account debit to, yeah, I'll write one line below. You need not write account here again because this is a statement, not a ledger, but it's okay. If you prefer writing, now nobody is going to stop. 18th of October. 18th of October 19. Yeah, what is the amount of sales? Amount of sales is 2500. 2500. Yes, guys, perfect. Come on, let's go to next one. November 16th. What is happening on November 16th? Goods sold by H to G. Sir, sales. No, don't go by that. That's what I'm trying to tell. See the transaction. Sold by H to G. Who am I? G. Am I selling? No. When H is selling, I am buying. So I need to record this as a purchase transaction. So to G, it is purchase. So the journal entry will be purchase account, debit to H account. Purchase account, debit to H account. So in H account, I'll write by purchases. You guys get this? Should I write account? Actually not required. Actually not required. But okay, that's fine. I'll write it. How much is it? So it is on 16th of November. I'll write here 16th November 19. Yeah, they've given amount. How much is it? 4000. I will also write 4000 rupees, but they've given little more information. See, look at that. What has they given? Invoice is dated November 26th. When they give me the invoice on November 26th, I can pay only on November 26th. Till then, I can't pay. So that is the due date. What is it? 26th of November 19. Sir, what is the significance of due date? For a transaction, when there is due date, if the due date is given for a particular transaction, then what do you say, that particular date will become dummy. Date will become dummy. Date will have no significance when due date is actually given. You guys get that? Okay, let's go to the next one. So December 7th, sold by H to G. Again, don't go by the word sales here. It is H's sales to G. Who are we? G. So G is purchasing. Again, you would have to write by purchase because the journal entry for credit purchase is purchase account debit to H account. Yeah, I'll write by purchases 3500. 3500. What is the date? Date is 7th December. 7th of December 19. They have given invoice date again. It is 17th of December. If the invoice is given on 17th of December, I cannot make the payment before that. When due date is given, the date will become dummy. When I'm computing days, I'll explain it to you. For now, just chill with this. Okay, let's go to the next one. 2020, there are few transactions happening. January 3rd, they're asking us to do it till 31st of March. Okay, no problem. So January 3rd, promissory note given by G to H. Yeah, given by G to H. Okay, go by the logic. Now who's giving it? G. So I am giving it. To me, it's bills payable. To me, it is bills payable. So bills payable is a liability, I'll credit it. Debit will be H. So tell me what is the journal entry? H account debit to bills payable account. H account debit to bills payable. So here I'll write what? To bills payable. Okay, to bills payable account. This due date column again, I would have to reduce the size a little. Okay, guys. Okay, what is the date? January 3rd, 3rd of January 2019. Amount is, sorry, 2020, 5,000. I forgot. It is 20. Okay. Next thing, please note, they have given that this bill is for 3 months. This bill is for 3 months. So 3rd of January is 3 months. If I add February, March, April, it becomes April. April. So it will become 3rd of April 20. This is the due date. And this bill will mature after 3 grace days. So what is it? To 3rd, I'll add 4, 5, 6. So it will technically become 6th of April 2020. What will it become? 6th of April 2020. 3 days I'll add to days column. 3 plus 3 6. 3 months I'll add to months column. So it is DDMMYY. Date 3rd month January year 20. So if I add 3 days to 3rd, it will become 6th. If I add 3 months to 1, it will become 4. 20 will remain 20. So that's how simple it is. A lot of them get confused with adding up dates. It's something very simple, guys. So 6th of April 2020. So that's how we arrived at this. That's the due date. Significance of it, I'll tell you when we start preparing the days column. So for now, chill. I will posted the amount also. We can go to next transaction. February 4th. What's happening on February 4th? Cash paid by G2H. So is it cash payment to us or cash receipt? Go by the name. By G2H. So they're giving from G's perspective. What am I doing? G is paying. Who am I? G. So G is paying. So to cash. Whom are we paying? H. So the journal entry when G pays to H. Journal entry when G pays to H is what? H account debit to cash account. So in H account, I'll write to cash. To cash account. Okay, guys. Now tell me, what is the amount? Amount is 1000. Date is February 4th. 1000 4th of February 20. Done? Okay, let's go to March 21st. March 21st, what's happening? Goods sold by G to H. Who am I? G. So what am I doing? Sales. So journal entry for credit sales to H is H account debit to sales account. How much? 4,300. I'll write here. Okay, I'll insert a few lines. Insert. Oh, how many have I inserted? I need to insert couple of them. I think this will do. Okay, two lines I'm leaving for each transaction because if you have any computation good game. Okay, so 21st of March, 21st of March 20, 4th of February, 21st of March of 20, sold goods to sold by G to H. So H account debit to sales. So is it mandatory to write account here? Actually not necessary in account current. How much? 4,300. Sir, what about these two columns? We'll fill it later. First, we'll finish off the question. Once I post all the transactions, then I can ignore the question. Then I can only look at the answer, fill the days column, find the product, find the interest and everything. Yeah, that's it. Okay, 4,300 part is also done. Let's see the last one. March 8th. What's happening on March 28th? March 28th. Goods sold by H to G. So it is not sales. Remember, H is selling, G is buying. Who are we? G. See, from G's perspective, it is purchase. So it is purchase account debit to H account. What is it? Purchase account debit to H account. So I'll write what? Buy purchases. What is the amount? 2700. Date. Which date is this transaction happening? This transaction is happening on 28th of March. 28th of March 20. Have they given any invoice date or something? Yeah. 8th of April. Okay. 8th of April 20. That's the date on which the amount needs to be paid. If they have not given invoice, how can you pay? So date, due date, transaction, amount. Purchase account debit to H account. That's it. We're done with this. So they're asking us to drop an account current. We almost did that. Till 31st of March, we written it on the top to be rendered by G to H. So G is preparing, giving it to H. It's like in the books of G, H account. I mentioned that charging interest at 10% per annum. Yeah, interest needs to be computed to nearest rupee. Okay, guys. So let us do this. So they've told us to compute interest. 10% per annum. Yeah. So these all the transactions are happening on account. Like I purchase, I need not pay money to that extent exactly. So what I'll do is I pay whatever the money I have. I purchase to whatever extent I want. If I purchase more and then pay less, the seller will be at loss. If I pay more and then purchase less, then I'll be at loss. So just to ensure that any purchases that I made will be treated as loan taken by me from him. I repeat, any purchases that I make will be treated as loan that I've taken from him. Any money that I pay him, it will be treated as loan that I give to him. So if buying and paying happens on same date, then interest, this is also loan, this is also loan. If I compute interest will be same. Interest receivable, interest payable will be same, it will become 0. If I buy now, pay from tomorrow. Interest on the loan that I have taken will be 1 day more than interest that I have to receive. So that amount of interest I pay. You get that? So either of the parties will not be at loss. You get that? So whenever they have money, they pay. Whenever they want goods, they borrow. So it's a very handy thing that people usually do. So amazing concept, account current. Yeah. So now when due date is not given, we'll go by the date. First, we need to fill in the day column. How do we fill in the days column? Days will be computed from the date or due date to 31st of March. From the date or due date to what date? To 31st of March. So 1st of October say 31st of March tak I need to compute. 1st of October say 31st of March tak I need to compute. Yeah, shall we do this? Okay. October mein how many days? October has 30 days. Sorry, October has 31 days. So I should be doing 31 days plus November has how many days? November has 30 days plus December has how many days? December has 31 days plus then January 31 days plus December 28 days. Sorry, February 28 or 29 because it is leap year. 2020 is leap year. 29 days plus 31 days in March. So 31 days in October, 30 days in November, 31 in December, 31 in January, 29 in February, and 31 in where? March. So I would have to do this. You get that? So how many days will it come to? It will come to 183 days. Perfect. It's a leap year. For half year, it will be 183. If it is non-leap year, it will be 182. Perfect. Okay. Now let us go to next transaction. We'll just fill in the days column. Later, I'll tell you what to do. Yeah. Now 18th of 10. Then what will happen? Then from 18th, we need to compute. So 18th, the date of transaction will not be counted. From the next date, we should start counting. October has how many days? 31. 18 are gone. So 13 are remaining. Plus next month. November month में 30. December month में 31. Plus January में 31. Plus 29 in February. Plus 31 in March. How many days will that come to? Yeah, is equal to. That will give me 165 days. There's some small trick that I need to do with respect to this 183. It will be actually 184, but I'll not tell you right now. You will get confused. So for now, let it be 183. This is 165. Again, let's go to the next one. Bills payable. Yeah, it is that if 3rd of January is the date of transaction, 6th of April is the due date. So I'll start counting from 6th of April. I'll not count from 3rd of January. I repeat, I'm not counting from 3rd of January. When due date is given, we'll ignore the date of transaction. When due date is given, we'll ignore the date of transaction. Okay, now 6th of April to 31st of March. 6th of April to 31st of March. A lot of them will say, sir, 6 days. But it is -6. You will like, sir, how come? Pretty simple, guys. We are doing it backwards. If you can observe, October to 31st of March, October 19, 1st of October 2019 to 31st of March 20, we're going forward in time. But if you observe here, 6th of April is higher, ahead of 31st of March. So we're coming back in time. Coming back in time. Here the days will be negative. Always the days is computed from the date or due date till 31st of March. I'll repeat, from the date or due date till 31st of March. That is date or due date to the date of preparation of account current. It's always forward. If it becomes backward, days will become negative. When the days become negative, interest pertaining to it will become negative, and that, my friends, is what we call as red ink interest. What is it called as? Red ink interest. When the period is negative, the interest will be negative, and such interest is called as red ink interest. What is red ink interest? Red ink interest is the interest which is computed when the due date falls after the date of account current. I repeat, this is the interest which is computed when the due date falls after the date of account current. Yeah. Now, why does this come? I'll explain it to you. Let's just compute the days first. I'll come back to this. I would have to explain that opening balance curve. Why is it 184 also? I'll do that. Yeah. See, come, let's come back. So 4th of February. Due date is not there. I'll go by February. February has 29 days. 4 days are gone. So what will it be? It will be 25 days plus how many days in March? 31 days. So that will be 56 days. I hope you guys understood that part. Okay. Let us go to next one. 21st of March, say. 22nd, say how many days are remaining. You will go by how many days? 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th, 31. 10 days. Transaction date is only there. There is nothing called as due date here. So we'll go by 10. Yeah. Okay. We're done with the debit side if I'm not wrong. Okay. Debit. It's not actually debit. Okay. Fine. Still, I can call it so. Let's do the credit side now, or whatever you call it. Should I be considering 16th of November or 26th of November? I should consider 26th of November. Okay, let's start counting from 26th of November. November has 30 days, 26 days gone, 4 days are there. Yeah, plus December may 31 days, plus January may 31 days, February may 29 days, and March may 31 days. How do you get it? Whether it particular year is leap year or non-leap year? You divide that year by 4. 2020 you divide by 4. If you get the whole number, then it is leap year. If you don't get the whole number, it is non-leap year. Now 2020 if I divide by 4, if I divide 2020 by 4, I get 505. No decimal point. So it's a leap year. If I see 2021 divided by 4, I'll get 505.25. So it is not a leap year. Why is this? Because 1 in every 4 years is a leap year, isn't it? So you divide it by 4. It should be multiple of 4. Okay. Now tell me how much is the period here. Control V, and then I'll add equals in the beginning. You'll never know. One fine day ICAI might conduct the examination in the digital form, wherein the question paper will be given to you in PDF, and you need to prepare the answer in an Excel sheet. That's how ACC exams happen to an extent. So ICAI might implement that, because the future is this. In the articleship, no, you will not be writing everything. You would have to be doing everything on the Excel sheet, isn't it? So this might be the pattern which the examination might happen in the future. Okay, fine. Let's get back to business. So again, they've given 7th of December, 17th of December, 17th of December being due date. What will I consider? I'll ignore 7th of December. I'll start counting from 17th December. Okay, now 17th December. How many days are remaining? So 14 days are remaining in December, plus January may 31 days, February may 29 days, plus 31 days in March. You get that? 14 days in December, 31 days in January, 29 in February, and 31 in March. It comes to 105 days. Okay, let's go to the next one. Again, this is interesting. Why? They've given due date and transaction date. What do we consider? Due date. 8th of April is the starting date. From 8th of April, when we go into 31st of March, we're going backwards in time. So it's minus. How much minus? Minus 8 days. Again, here what we compute will be called as red ink interest. Do you guys get that? Okay. Now let's get back to business. Now, why do we compute interest? because if I buy today, I would have to pay today. If I don't pay today and then pay tomorrow, why I'm delaying it by one day, I would have to pay interest. Understood? If I buy some goods today, I would have to pay money today. If I don't pay today, if I pay late, what is happening? I'm paying one day late. For that one day, I need to compensate by paying interest. I hope you understood today. So that one day is today or tomorrow. It is not today's interest. It is tomorrow's interest. It is not today. It is tomorrow's interest. If I pay today, I need not pay interest. No, because I'm paying tomorrow. I'm paying tomorrow's interest. You get that? On the date of payment, interest will be charged. Date of transaction, interest is not charged. An important point. That's the reason I told you to count from the next date till that last date. Now, when we go for balance brought down, this money is due as on 30th of September, last date also. You computed interest on 30th of September. Now, if I pay the money on 1st of October, still I would have to pay interest for one day. That's not the case for 18th of December. 18th of October. 18th of October, I have sold goods. If I receive money on 18th of October only, I will not charge interest. Why? Sold on that day, received on that day. Whereas 1st of October, it is opening balance. Meaning, last year only I had to pay me money. So, even if he pays me on 1st of October, I will charge interest. So, whenever you do it for opening, you include the first day. You include the first day. Oh, have I already included? I've already included. Sorry. You need to include the first day. If this was two sales, I would have taken 30 plus 30 here. I would have taken only 30 days in October. So because this is the opening date, balance brought down, I include the date of balance also. You get that? So that's the point. And next, with respect to this, what happens is this is actually becoming due on 6th of April. So next period, 6th of April, this becomes due. I should count from next if I'm doing it till 30th of June. Assume 3 months come. Now this is till 31st of March. So April, May, June. Assume I'm doing it for 3 months. So next period, this transaction date is 6th of April. I should compute from 6th of April to 30th June. The next period, when I prepare account current, for this bills payable, I should compute from 6th of April to 30th June. But this transaction is appeared in this period only. This 5,000 would go to balance carried down here, and it would appear as balance brought down in the next period. And against balance brought down, there would be no due date, and there would be date that will be 31st of March or 1st of April. So I would compute from 1st of April to 30th of June. So I would compute for 6 days extra in the next period. When the due date appears beyond what you say that account current date, I would compute 6 days extra interest in the next period. Because I'm computing 6 days extra interest in the next period, I would compute 6 days less interest in the current period. That's the reason I would have to take minus 6 years. Same it is with respect to minus 8 in this case also. You get what I'm trying to tell? So that's with respect to this question. And detailed I'll do one more separate video on account current. So for now, let's go ahead. So I told you we can do product method. So for now, what I'll do, I'll straight away do interest table method. Yeah, because in the examination, RTP, I think they've done it under product method. I'll do it under interest table method here and then show the answer there so that you can get a cross verification. Yeah. Okay, come on guys. So under interest table method, they've told interest is how much? 10% per annum. Haven't they? They've told interest is to be computed at what rate? 10% per annum. So I'll straight away go to 10% per annum. So what I'll do is equal to interest computation. How do we do? P into T into R. Principal into time into rate of interest. Principal is 3000 multiplied by time. How do you find time? 183 days divided by they've told 365 days a year you should take. Yeah, because it's a leap year. So we'll take 365. 365. Close the bracket. Multiply by what is the rate of interest? They've told interest at 10% per annum. So I will do 0.1. Yes, perfect. So that will give us the answer. How much is it? 150.410 something. They've told what? Round it off to nearest rupee. So first I'll do simple thing. I'll apply the same formula to everything, which you can't do. You would have to, in fact, copy paste. You would have to do it for everything separately. If I do it for this transaction, it becomes 130. Here it becomes minus 8.21. Here it becomes 115 point something, and here in it becomes how much? 111.78. And I'll go on doing it here as well. It becomes 138. It becomes 100. It becomes 1 of minus 5.9. Now I'll replace this with whole number. So 150.41. Nearest to rupees 150. When would I take it as 151? If it is more than 0.5. 150, 149.5 plus or 150.51 will become 151. Here it is 113.0. So I'll take it as 113 straight. Yeah. Minus 8.21, I'll take it as minus 8. 15.34, I'll take it as 15 interest. 11.78, I'll make this 12. Yeah. Minus 5.91, I'll make it minus 6. They've told us to round it off to nearest to be. 100.68, I'll make it 101. 101. 138.08, 138. Yeah. So we arrived at interest. Just find the interest column a balancing figure first. I'll write is equal to sum. Find the balancing figure in the interest column. 233. Copy. 282. So now when I find the balancing figure in the interest column, it is 282 on the debit, 233 on the credit. You get that? So balancing figure will be how much here? I'll write here balance of interest. This is only in the interest column, guys. Interest column is just like working note. Okay, how much is balance of interest? I'll write is equal to. I'll pick this and then I'll write minus sum and I'll take this one. Okay, 49 rupees is the balance of interest. Now total becomes 49. What is it? 282, 282. This is on which side? Credit side. Now when I post this to amount column, it comes on the debit side. It will come here 49. You guys get that? What will I write here? To interest. That column is like interest account. That interest column is like interest account. Yeah. From first I'll find the balance figure in the interest column, and interest column if it is on the credit, when I post it, it comes to the debit in the amount column. You get that? Now what I have to do now? I would have to just find the balance figure in the amount column. Control V. Control V. How much is it? It is 15,849 on the debit, 10,200 on the credit. Now simple thing. I'll find balance carry down. Yeah, how do I find it? Is equal to, I'll take this amount minus sum with sum this one. Yeah, 5,649. This is balancing figure. Okay, fine. This is balancing figure. This is balancing figure. Balancing figure 1. After I find this balancing figure, I will post that here 49 and then I'll arrive at the rest of it. Ouch. Yeah. First I'll find this 49. I'll post this 49 to amount column. Once I post it to amount column, then I'll find this balance carried on. Yeah. That's it. We're done with the problem. This is which method? This is interest table method. Instead, if you guys can recall, we did P into T into R. Principal into time into rate of interest. So for everything I did P into T into R, isn't it? So here I did 3000 into 183 divided by 365 multiplied by 10%. Instead of doing P into T into R, I'll do P into T, P into T, P into T for everything. I'll find product, amount into days, amount into days. So once I find total of products, for product debit, for product credit, I'll find the difference. On the difference, I'll do what? Into R. That is rate of interest. That's what they do. That will save time when you're doing it in the calculator. Excel sheet this is easy. But when you're doing the calculator, that is easy. What I do? 3000 into 183, 2500 into 165, 5000 into minus 6, 1000 into 56, 4,300 into 10. So I do that. I'll find debit side product, credit side product. I'll find the balance and figure in the product column. Balance and figure in the product column. That product column, whatever difference I get, I do that into 10%. Because P into T is already done, I'll do at once R. You get that? That's how they do it in the examination. So you can do that or this, anything. Okay, either when they don't mention either of the methods you follow, you'll still get the same full amount of marks. But this is how it should be done. And this minus 8 and minus 6 is rating interest. And rounding off is also pretty important in the exam. Don't skip doing rounding off. Yeah, and this is how you present your answer. Yes, guys. So this is how you present, and this is your account current. Yeah. If you have to take a snap of it, you guys can take it. Say a small screenshot to help you in your lateral preparation. And yes, by this we have successfully finished question number 11 also. So we have to start with question number 12, that is rectification of errors put along with final accounts. And then I think we have partnership accounts, computation of goodwill plus retirement, and then we have one NPO question along with then company accounts, may share issue, debenture issue, and theory will come. So I think we can do it in next two parts or next one part. Let's see. I think next video it will take two parts. I don't want to make it a longer video. So next video that I'll come up with will basically include final accounts of proprietor with partnership goodwill computation, and I'll see if we can put in retirement. And the last video will have the remaining things, maybe NPO and company accounts along with the last theory question. So that's set for now. So this is the end of part 4 for RTP discussion number 2020. So see you all in the next video wherein we'll do the remaining questions, and it might go for two more parts, but let's see how it goes. Yeah. So that's it for now. I hope you understood, and I hope I did little value addition to your preparation for the upcoming examinations. So see you all in the next one. Till then, stay in the game. Bye bye.